I'm all set.
Good. Boa noite a todos. Estamos em mais uma live da XP Private. Hoje conosco Sérgio Espechit e David Lee. Sérgio vai estar nos apresentando o David, um amigo de longa data dele na época que ele morava na China. Sérgio tem mais de 30 anos de Vale do Rio Doce. Hoje ele é um consultor independente, mas mais de 30 anos de Vale, dos quais os últimos 15, 20 anos entre a Europa, Oriente Médio, Ásia, e os últimos 4 anos antes de se desligar da companhia como CEO da Vale na China. Na China, o Sérgio conheceu o David Lee, um dos professores e economistas mais respeitados da região, e nos fez essa apresentação e essa provocação da gente bater o papo com alguém na mainland China. Eu vou passar a palavra para o Sérgio para apresentar o seu amigo David. Sérgio, contigo.
Ok, bom dia a todos. Eu vou começar aqui rapidamente em português e passar só para inglês no final. Professor, I'll just make a brief introduction about yourself in Portuguese for the public, okay? So, o professor David Lee, ele é professor da Universidade de Tsinghua, tá? Que fica em Beijing, é a principal universidade da China, inclusive onde formou o presidente Xi Jinping. Ele atuou por muitos anos e fez PhDs e outros tipos de treinamentos em universidades americanas, Stanford, Harvard, e sempre esteve muito envolvido nessa relação Estados Unidos-China, tá? Ele é um top advisor do governo chinês, né, nas questões de economia e política global. Ele faz parte do Standing Committee do Partido Chinês, do Partido Comunista Chinês. Então, como o Beni colocou, é uma pessoa muito respeitada e muito conhecida. Nesses anos da Vale na China, o professor sempre foi um grande amigo da Vale, bastante contato com as atividades da empresa por lá, e nos últimos anos nos tornamos aí grandes amigos, e dentro da filosofia que a gente procurou praticar lá de ver também a China através dos olhos da China, né? Então essa é a ideia, né, de trazer o professor aí. So, Professor David Lee, I just make a brief introduction about yourself. Welcome. I think it would be very good for all the Brazilian economical community to know more about the economical, political, and any other subject on their interest in China through you. So, thank you very much for joining us. And Benny, please.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's truly my pleasure, mainly because Brazil is the country I have been really, really expecting and wanting to visit. I was planning to visit Brazil last November for the BRICS summit, but for some reason I couldn't make it. And then I was expecting and trying to make arrangements to visit last April, okay, as chief economist of the NDB, and for obvious reasons I could not make it. So today it's wonderful for me to be able to talk to you, to our Brazilian friends in this way. And although it's very early for me, 6 a.m. in the morning, still it's much better for me to switch in Dubai or New York, to travel 24 hours to go to visit a big, beautiful country, much easier this way, okay? So today I'm looking forward to all your questions, no matter how difficult, how tough, how broad they are, okay? So please go ahead, Benny.
Okay, David, thank you so much. I will begin with a very easy question to warm up.
Okay, sure.
That is, how is life in China nowadays? You are ahead of us in terms of quarantine. I think you lived a very strong situation where everybody was closed, and now you told me that you're beginning to live a normal life. So how's life in China now?
Okay, life in China, I would say, is 80% normal. 80% normal, okay? That is, people are able to go outside their room, are able to travel, to drive cars, to visit restaurants and hotels. However, there's one piece which is not normal, that is schools. Universities are not open yet. Okay, I should say, many universities are not open yet, okay? And the high schools are only open in maybe one half of China, and in the other half of China, only the graduating class of high school and the graduating class of junior high school are back to their schools, back to normal. Okay, so this is the last step for China to go back to normal. Okay, now let me quickly add. China is a country in which people, including leaders, are relatively cautious. Cautious people, cautious leaders. Okay, so I believe that China should go back to normal, but the leaders and many people believe that let's wait, let's still leave one piece of the equation open. Okay, now when will China go back to normal? I believe early June will go back to normal, because late June will be the National People's Congress, which was delayed for 2 months. Okay, after the NPC, National People's Congress annual meeting, I believe things will go back to normal.
Great. In terms of economic development, so you answered us in terms of life, but in terms of economic development, how are you seeing China recovering from the bottom, let's say?
Okay, good. Another very good question. Okay, first on the production side, most factories, most production facilities are back to normal. Okay, most, I would say 90% of the production is back to normal. And also the construction, building roads, building airports, the infrastructure investments are back to normal, 100%. 100% back to normal. Okay, now what is missing, what is not back to normal, obviously is number one. Okay, they are number one, restaurants. Restaurants are not back to normal. Many restaurants are still not able to attract clients. As I said, Chinese people are relatively cautious, so many people are intimidated by the prospect of being infected. So many people are still trying to go to restaurants, take out food. Okay, although they are allowed to have dinner and have meals in the restaurants. The other area which is not back to normal are the airlines, and the airlines and the rapid rail and the rail travel, because again, many people are scared. Many people are psychologically intimidated. Okay, so this is the general picture.
Okay. I think one of the main topics, and I would say that it's when I shared with my friends and colleagues about this conversation, I think the main topic that everybody's talking, it's the relationship between China and United States, and also Europe. So that's the whole world. How are you seeing this relationship being developed after COVID-19?
Yeah, well, this is a very sad, very grave topic for me. I personally, I believe China and the U.S. should be having a much better relationship than they have right now. Okay, I truly believe so. Okay, I was educated in the U.S. in graduate school, and many intellectuals, many academics also have a good experience learning and being educated in the U.S. Okay, so this is my thinking and my colleagues' thinking. However, in reality, the relationship I predict will get worse. Before getting better in the coming 2 years. So I would give it at least 1.5 years. Okay, why? I think both sides have to be blamed. Okay, I blame both sides. Okay, although I'm from China. Okay, I'm be very frank with you. Okay, now first on the U.S. side, I hold a frank view that the U.S. domestically is not doing well dealing with the COVID-19, the epidemic. The U.S. was not doing its ideal work in this. And also I blame President Trump for that. Okay, he was not prepared for the job. Okay, he was not cut to be a leader dealing with such a crisis. Okay, so therefore in the U.S., especially U.S. politics, people tend to blame China. Okay, I think it's unfair. Okay, for China having various problems or even suspecting China for intentionally spread the virus. Okay. Now on the Chinese side, I also criticize my government, or some people in my government. I wouldn't say put all government. Okay. So some people in the government are too eager to play the game of President Trump. See, President Trump plays a game of the media. President Trump is very good in criticizing people. Now, what China should be doing is not to play his game. China should tell his own story, straightforward, again and again. Keep the same story. Rather, very unfortunate, some Chinese officials, including some diplomats, okay, play the game of President Trump. That is to blame the U.S. for the virus. Okay, and therefore, many people in China who are not so well educated, who are not knowledgeable about the U.S., are excited. They are nationalistic. The mentality is now excited. So this is the problem. So in the coming 1 or 2 years, situation will become very ugly. Unfortunately.
I understand. Do you think it's going to take really 2 years, or do you think after the elections in the United States, maybe things can get better?
Well, I tend to think it will take 1 to 2 years. Because why? Because many politicians, not only President Trump, even some politicians in the other camp, in the liberal, in the Democrat camp, also share the view that China did something wrong. Okay, China should be punished. This is obviously wrong. Okay, I will give you my reasons. Okay, if you want to ask. Okay, so it will take some time for the momentum, for the inertia, to die away, to phase out. Meanwhile, on the Chinese side, once the general public are excited, it will also take some time for the momentum to change. So I believe it will 1 or 2 years for both sides, and also for Europe to go back to normal, dealing with China.
David, you are someone that reads the press in English. Like I'm pretty much sure you read what's happening in Europe, United States, and also in Asia. But I don't think for us here it's that common to follow the China news. What is being reported there? You mentioned about the government, but what the average people read?
Good question. Good question. Okay, good question. I say this as a fact. Let me state as a fact that the Chinese media is under tight management of the government. It's a fact. It's a fact. I'm not criticizing anybody. Okay, I'm being very frank with you. Okay, the Chinese media is now under tight management of the government. Therefore, most people read the Chinese media, and the Chinese media mostly reports negative comments by U.S. officials, especially Pompeo, Secretary of State Pompeo, attacking China. Okay, attacking China. So therefore, most people in China tend to believe that America is monolithic, is one piece, that is the U.S. government. Most people in China are not aware of the fact that the American society, the Western society, including the Brazilian society, actually are divided. There are different camps. Those people who are very viciously attacking China are mostly politicians. So this is, again, a very unfortunate aspect of the situation.
In 2008, the U.S. government took a while until they act increasing the Fed balance sheet. And in China was pretty much the opposite side. They reacted much faster, let's say. At this time, we are seeing U.S. and also Europe acting really fast and really hard, increasing the government balance sheet. And China, in the opposite way, doing just a little of economic support, let's say. what's your view on that? Why China didn't react that fast? And what's your view about U.S. doing it and China not doing it?
Okay, Benny, very good observation. Okay, wonderful observation. I fully agree with your observation. And there's a
Pessoal, acho que a gente teve um problema aqui com o David, mas vamos aguardar um pouquinho. O Sérgio está em contato com ele via WhatsApp e a gente já continua.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me start. Let me repeat, okay? So, wonderful observation. And there are good reasons for these consequences with this observation. Number one, on the US side, they took lessons from the 2008 financial crisis. They knew that the financial markets do not like delays. The financial markets are about expectations. So they push all out to stabilize the financial situation, okay, in order to help enterprises and to prevent enterprises from going into bankruptcy, okay? So there are good reasons for them, okay? Meanwhile, on the Chinese side, they also know that this epidemic is different from the global financial crisis of 2008. This epidemic affects Chinese people's action, the real economy. And in China, people have relatively high amount of savings. And in China, most households can survive a few months without cash. Okay, I'm not saying everyone, okay? But most households have higher amount of savings. So for China, the most important thing is, or was a few months ago, to stabilize the public health problem in Wuhan and in Hubei province. City of Wuhan is situated in Hubei, okay? So the first priority is to make sure lockdown was properly implemented and the public health crisis was properly handled. And then the next step is to help enterprise to be able to go back to normal. Enterprise be able to produce with workers able to go back to work wearing masks. And then now the government begin to worry about consumer confidence. So it's not about simply printing money, simply giving money, or simply increasing budget deficit. So I believe both sides have their good reasons because US, Western Europe, Brazil, and China are different.
And do you think China, let's say, the government saved a little bit for the future? Is China considering a second wave of this pandemic, and maybe we will spend more later? Is maybe a reason?
Yep. Yeah, Benny, very good question, very good point. Okay, you asked one extremely important question. Okay, yes, that's another reason that China is now preparing a second wave of possible epidemic coming back in the fall and next year. And more important, as I said, the U.S.-China relation is not going to do well. Okay, in the coming 1 or 2 years, and this is a popular view. This is a common view in China. So Chinese economy and policymakers are preparing for a protracted period of difficulties for 2 years. Therefore, they save ammunition for coming years. For example, they would not increase
A gente teve aqui mais um problema. Vamos aguardar um pouquinho. Sérgio, você está em contato com ele?
Ele deve ter saído para entrar de novo.
Vamos aguardar um pouquinho e a gente continua. Sérgio,
Sim.
sua experiência de China foram em que cidades?
Eu morei em Xangai, mas também ia muito a Beijing e também circulava muito pelas cidades costeiras, né? Pelos negócios com os portos. Então, desde de Shenzhen, mais ao sul, até o norte, até Dalian.
Depois você me conta um pouco aqui também.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Benny. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Please go ahead.
No, I think if we can go back to this question that I just made, I think we lost you just in the beginning. So if you can repeat, it would be
sure. Wonderful. Very briefly, I said Benny, you're right. You're right in your guessing. Okay, that is the Chinese policymakers are saving some ammunition for the future 1 or 2 years of economic difficulties. Yes, you're absolutely right. So Chinese policymakers are not pushing all out. They're waiting for the worst times.
And David, do you think China is more well prepared to face an epidemic like this than the rest of the world? Do you think that's one of the reasons why China built better than the rest of the world?
Yes. I think this is a very fair point. I do believe China was better prepared for such kind of crisis for two simple reasons. The first one is widely recognized. Second one is less so. Okay, the widely recognized reason is because the political social institutions. That is, China has much more politically centralized institutions. So the policymakers can make very quick decisions without bothering about different opinions. Okay, so very quick, the political centralization and the political and social mobilization. The other reason is less obvious. The other reason is because the Chinese people are different in their behavior and culturally from, say, Brazilian people. I mean, nothing's wrong, nothing's right, nothing is better, nothing is worse. Okay, I'm just saying as a fact. The Chinese people are, number one, they're more willing to follow orders. Okay, they are for years. Okay, second, they are more cautious. Okay, when it comes to facing risks. Okay, why we are more cautious than again, I'm saying on average. Okay, because China in history, in the past 1,000, 2,000 years, suffered from many incidences of epidemic, of crisis, civil wars, and many major catastrophes. Okay, so that we, including myself, we are in China. We are offsprings of people who are cautious, who are survivors of crisis. Okay, so I'm just saying a very simple fact. Again, please do not take this as a racist, as a politically controversial point. I'm just saying purely. There are different cultures. No culture is better. No culture is worse. Okay, so Brazil is so much better in soccer than Chinese soccer, right? Partly because the Chinese people are too reserved, okay, on many things. Okay, I'm just, again, for fun. Okay, so please don't get me wrong. Okay, I'm just saying open-minded way. Okay.
So, do you think China is the winner of the situation since it's more well prepared? Better savings. Yeah. It's the winner of the situation around the world.
Yeah. Well, very interesting question, and also a very common question. I think among people in the world, including Brazil. But I frankly speaking, is a wrong question. It's a wrong question. Okay, it's wrong to ask this because this is not a game. This is not an Olympic game. This is not a tournament, okay? Everybody, all countries, all cultures, all peoples are facing the same challenge. We are facing the same challenge, okay? We are all like students taking exams, the same exams, okay? the same mathematics exams. Okay, this is like math exam. Okay, and Chinese situation, the Chinese people, Chinese political system happen to be better cut to take this exam. Okay, so I would say the Chinese people are better prepared for this exam. However, if you give us exam of soccer, that Brazil will do much better than China. Okay, so everybody face the same challenge. We face the same challenge. Okay, everybody is losing. Everybody, we all lose. We all lose. Okay, so my implication is that don't blame anybody. Don't blame any country. Okay, China is also a major victim. Okay, look, China suffered from 3 months of economic and social lockdowns. Okay, and social slowdowns. Okay, so we all lose. We all lose. And China happened to be able to deal with this better because of cultural reasons and political, social, institutional reasons. Okay.
Where do you think you're going to find growth in the world? It's in Asia, it's in China, it's in US. Do you think how we will recover from this?
Okay. Okay. Again, wonderful question. Okay, there are three. I think there are three groups of countries in the world facing the COVID-19. One group is East Asia, China, Japan, South Korea, and the region of Taiwan. Okay, and Singapore. Okay, so this is the one group, and very fortunate, I think, for the world. This group of countries are very important for the global economy. For example, the computers we use, the iPhones we use, are mostly assembled, produced in this part of the world, although they are designed in the USA. Okay, computer chips are mostly produced in these countries, and electronic products, consumer goods, and masks and ventilators are produced in this region. The second group are Europe and US, and also I would guess Brazil belongs to the second group. These countries are in a second wave of facing epidemic. They are about 2 months, 1.5 or 2 months behind the East Asia. The third group of countries I worry most. They are Indians and Africans, India and Africa, maybe even Southeast Asia. Okay, I worry that the epidemic will come back to India and to Africa. This is the third wave. Okay, so for the global economy, I see 3 waves of recovery: East Asia, Europe, US, and India and South and Africa. I do hope that India and Africa will not be affected. Okay, I sincerely hope that the third wave would not come, but I worry about this.
And Professor Lee, do you have any? Do you see any opportunities in type of investments? And can be, like, broadly speaking, can be in China or can be elsewhere. Like, from this situation, where would you invest your money?
Yes. Okay. Good question. Now, I claim this is purely my personal view. Okay. I personally, I'm watching 2 sectors. Okay. Number one sector, I watch oil companies. Okay, because I do believe, I hold the view. Okay, that oil prices will not always be too low, so low. Not only because the global economy will eventually come back in 1 or 2 years back to normal consuming crude oil, but also because President Trump will do something with Saudi Arabia or even with Russia to stabilize the oil price. Why? Because if the oil price is not stabilized, many US shale gas companies will be affected. So President Trump is very good in this regard. Let's give him credit. He knows the Wall Street. He knows the business relatively well. And also the US as a country has leverage over Saudi Arabia. Okay? And so it's in everybody's interest, US and Saudi Arabia and Russia, to stabilize the oil price. Okay? And so I am personally investing in oil price, but not, initially for a few days, I invested in the futures of oil price, the USO, USC, you know this very well, okay? I didn't do well, okay? But I quickly switched into equity equities of BP, of ExxonMobil. Okay, these are big companies. I don't think they will go under. I don't think they will be affected because they also have downstream business, okay, which benefit from the low oil price. The other area I'm interested in is high-tech companies, okay, companies who are producing the software we are using, okay, and currently there is a game going on among many high-tech companies trying to compete with each other in coming up with the best platform of video conference and many other things. So I'm betting on large companies in this regard because large companies, number one, will not go under. And second, large companies have cash in the high-tech industry. They will be able to buy some of the winning technologies in this business. Now, this is my current personal investment strategy, okay? And the other wave, the other business is Valley, okay? Valley and Glencore, okay? I think they will come back slightly later than crude oil, the oil companies. Why? Because they will come back when the Chinese economy goes back into relatively normal pace of growth in maybe 1 year, or maybe 1.5 years, or 2 years. Okay, so China will definitely push very hard infrastructure, which will need iron ores, will need mineral stuff, will need coal. Okay, so Valley is also still one of my most favorite stocks, but in comparison, frankly speaking, I think the crude oil companies are now more exciting than Valley. So I sold some of the Valley shares. Sergio, I'm sorry to say that. Okay, I sold some of the Valley shares. I switched into ExxonMobil and BP. So far, paying off.
Good. Can you share with us a little bit about your view on the economic numbers of China? How the GDP will react for this year and next year, 2020, 2021, like overall?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let me say this way. Okay. Currently, in the first quarter, China declined. GDP declined by 6.8%, almost 7%. The first quarter. Okay, which is still relatively mild relative to many people's expectations. Now, I believe the first half of this of the economy still will be negative. The first half of Chinese GDP. Now, for the whole year, I did my calculation, my forecast. If nothing was done, okay, the whole economy will only grow around 1.5%. Only 1.5 for the whole year if nothing was done. Okay. Now the issue is what the government will do to support the GDP growth. Now I think the Chinese government will put in a moderate amount of stimulus so that the growth will be between 3 to 4%. 3 to 4, maybe 3.5, close to 4%. Okay. Now, why is that? 3 to 4% will enable many households to be able to, to survive, and the unemployment situation mostly under control. Okay. But 3 to 4% is not a big number for China. Okay. And this will enable to save some ammunition of stimulus for next year. So next year, if China this year follows 3 to 4% GDP growth, next year will be something around 6 to 7. Okay, relatively high. Okay, and then next year we'll go back to the same level. Okay, so this is my prediction: 3 to 5 this year, 6, 7 next year, and 6, 7 the year after.
And in terms of currency, do you think any major changes in terms of currency because of this trade war with the US?
Yeah, okay. I believe that the currency for the rest of this year was mostly under pressure to appreciate. RMB will appreciate. Why is that? This year, okay, not next year, this year, in the second half of 2020. Why? Because US has printed a lot of money, and the US Treasury bond is now beginning to have higher yield. Okay, because people are beginning to retreat from the US market to emerging markets, including Brazil. Okay, I also predict Brazilian real will also appreciate. Okay, you know better than I do. Okay, I'm watching from distance. Okay, so all emerging market economies will face a pressure of appreciation in their currency in the second half of this year. But next year, different story. Next year and the year after, China will face some pressure of depreciation because of trade wars, because of the rest of the world may be very suspicious of China's economic sustainability.
Sergio, before I go on, I would like to open to you. I know that you also have some questions.
Yeah, I just thank you, Benny. There's one question, Professor David. I'm following the comments of the people here, and you made a statement in the beginning about the savings of Chinese people. That the Chinese people they like to save money. Can you talk to us a little more about that? Of this, how is this habit? How the normal middle class Chinese person deals with money in terms of savings and etc.
I see. Okay. It's a habit. As a habit, most people put aside. Okay, on average, the savings rate about households is between 25 to 30%. Okay, every year they put aside 25 to 30% of their income as savings. This is the average number. Of course, different households have different pattern of consumption. Okay, and also there are studies to show that young people, before getting married, before having kids, do not save a lot. But then when they have kids, when they have families, they also begin to save. Okay, and also there is a pattern that older generation of people transfer their savings to their kids, because in China, family relationship is very important. So savings are transferred from parents and grandparents to their kids and grandkids. So this is the situation, and it's very hard to explain why. Okay, Japan is like the same, but my explanation is that China suffered too many years of civil wars and catastrophes. So we're all offsprings of those people who were very cautious during civil wars and catastrophes. So this we're genetically shaped by catastrophes in history.
And I have a second question here that
Sure, please.
I know you're working, you are a very deep researcher on everything, and recently you have been the chief economist of the New Development Bank, and you have opportunity to study deeply the countries involved on that. But here in Brazil, we see many times people not believing too much in the numbers of China. They believe that the numbers are let's say, worked in a way to give a good image and sometimes not. And in this crisis, how many people said, oh, China didn't tell the truth? There is part of the people, like Trump, they said the virus came from China is one thing. The second one is they said they didn't tell us. And that is what Mr. Trump is saying every day. What could you tell us about that?
Yeah, wonderful question. Sergio, thank you very much for bringing this very important question and a very challenging question, and be very frank. Okay, as I said at the beginning, I'm very, very open, very, very frank. Okay, so number one, the Chinese institution, the political institution, is such that it's based on promotions. Okay, people are promoted, not elected. Okay, I'm talking about lower local officials and the government officials in the ministries. Okay, so when you have a system of promotion, okay, people who want to get a promotion try to put out beautiful numbers for their promotion. This is a deep institutional reason. Okay. However, meanwhile, there is a countervailing force. That is, people who promote, who decide promotion, also try to check numbers. They try to check numbers to see whether people put out wrong numbers. Okay, so this is a very big game, always a daily game going on in China, a daily game. So the National Bureau of Statistics publish numbers. The national level numbers are usually better than local numbers. Why? Because local numbers are used oftentimes to help local officials to get promotion. Okay, This is a general background. Now back to the issue of epidemic. Now, frankly speaking, at the very beginning, maybe last December, early January, okay, some local officials in Wuhan were worried about this situation. So they were not straightforward about their cases at the very beginning, very early start, but very quickly, around January 3rd or January 5th, I forgot the exact date, okay? The situation was quickly intervened by the central government. The central government quickly intervened, saying you have to report the true case. And then by early January, okay, the numbers coming from Wuhan, in principle, in general, are correct, okay? Why? You may say, oh, you are just saying a story. No, let me give you a reason, okay? Because these epidemic numbers, they are explosive. If you lie at the beginning, then you cannot lie forever. The numbers will go up very quickly, okay? So you can only cover a little bit at the early beginning, but then you have to be quickly come back to the true numbers, okay? Because otherwise the number will explode, okay? So this is a situation, I think, not widely recognized outside China, okay? Now, that being said, let me quickly add one more point, okay? Then for your question again, okay? The one point is that nobody in this world, no government in this world got it right at the very beginning. Every country got it wrong. Every country, even Singapore. The Singaporean government was supposed to be the best government, right? Most effective, the smartest, right? They have PhDs, they have wonderful people, okay, in the government. Even the Singaporean government got it wrong, okay? So nobody got it right because Singaporean government said, okay, no problem at the beginning, okay? No lockdowns, no social distance, we do things to normal, but only wear masks, okay? But then they couldn't hold up. Then about 1 month ago, they began to do lockdowns, okay? So everybody, including European countries, European government, including, I would even say at the very beginning, the Brazilian government or the American government did not get it right. Why? Because this is a new virus. And this virus is very different from SARS, very different from Ebola. It's explosive. It's very explosive. And it's also very shrewd, very, very complicated, very sophisticated in its infection. So that being said, my bottom line is that don't blame everybody, okay? Let's work together, face epidemic. Let's solve the problem. And if people want to do investigation of the source of the epidemic, fine. Okay, I hold the view, and many colleagues of mine hold the same view. Let's do it in a scientific way. Let's investigate scientifically, also multilaterally. All governments, all parties should be involved. Also, let's do it comprehensively. Let's check all laboratories in the world, including US, European laboratories, for possible leak of their various studies. Let's check all cases, okay? Let's do it comprehensive. Let's do it scientifically. Let's do it in a multilateral way, okay? Instead of only singling out one country or singling out one laboratories in China, okay? Let me stop here, please.
Professor, I just have another question here, is that Benny put some questions about the relationship with US and so on. And you know that Brazil is, in a certain way, more aligned to US nowadays. And you have been in the BRICS Bank, so you have time, you had your time to study deeply that. What do you think about the future or the influence of that in the commercial relationship between Brazil and China?
Now, I personally hope, and also I believe, that the Brazilian and the China relationship will go back to better terms, because business is business. Business is business, and China and Brazil are perfect couples in doing business, okay? Because what China needs are things produced in Brazil. Okay, and also what China produces are also things Brazil need. Let me give you an example. You know better than I do. Okay, Brazilian companies procure a lot of construction and mining equipment from China, not only because China are able to do it at lower costs, but also because Chinese companies are able to provide them very timely. In 6 months, they produce equipment for Valley, okay, for a company, former company Valley, okay, whereas it takes two years for a European American company to produce that, okay. So we are perfect couples working together. So I hope, and I strongly argue, and also I believe it will happen in the future. That is, business is business, culture are culture, soccer are soccer. Okay, let's talk about soccer exchange. Let's talk about business. Let's talk about cultural exchange, so on and so forth. Don't let this be tempered by politics, by diplomacy.
Benny, please.
Yeah.
David, I think one last question here. How do you think the situation will change the life of the Chinese, and if you can share a little bit of your view of how this will change the life of the common people around the world?
I see. Yeah, good question. Very good question. Okay, I believe very simple. Two ways will change people's life. Number one, people will become more cautious about public health problems, more conscious of public health problems after this. Okay, for a long time, people will be more cautious about the virus, very cautious about vaccine. I know even vaccine is a controversial issue. Number two, more important, I believe, especially in China, I believe people all realize life is short. Life is full of uncertainties. Okay? Enjoy life. Consume more. Okay? Enjoy times with your families. Enjoy consumption. Okay? Although in the short run, people are intimidated, but after this, people realize we have to go back to enjoy life. Okay? So I predict in China, there will be higher demand for cars. There will be higher demand for new housing. There will be higher demand for tourism. 6 months or maybe 3 months after this. Okay, so I'm optimistic. I think this is a wonderful education for people, all peoples in the world, that we are people. We should appreciate what we have, and we should be happy. We should enjoy life. We also should enjoy other people's cultures. We should enjoy even more soccer. Okay?
Good. Professor, I just have one question here that everybody is in interest in Brazil. What do you, as you have been in NDB for this time, what do you think is the strategy, or what we can see in a short and medium terms about infrastructure investments of Chinese companies in Brazil?
In Brazil.
Yeah. In Brazil,
see. Okay.
In projects in Brazil. As
Brazil.
you said before, China is a very big consumer of agricultural products, mineral products from Brazil.
Yes.
And one of the major bottlenecks for these products in Brazil is the infrastructure in ports, in railways, and roads. So, do you see any organized interest of China on that, or this is company by company? How do you feel the evolution of that?
Well, frankly speaking, there will be a short period after the epidemic, maybe a few months or half a year, for China to be a little bit more cautious than before in helping infrastructure investment in Brazil. Okay, initially, a little bit more cautious. Why? Because China is under pressure, is under wrong pressure. It should not be the case that many people blame China for this epidemic problem, for mishandling, or even suspecting China for spreading the virus. Okay, so China as a country, and also companies, are becoming more cautious investing abroad. I'll be very frank, okay? So, however, if the Brazilian government and the Chinese government, through diplomatic channels, can reestablish mutual confidence, okay, then the Chinese investment in Brazil will speed up faster than before, and there will be even more investment than Brazil. Why? Because China feels, frankly speaking, lonely. China is now under attack by US president and under attack by some European governments, European politicians. So if Brazil can show some moral support for China, then Chinese government, Chinese companies, Chinese people will feel very warm, will feel very grateful, will feel very, very warm towards Brazil. Okay, so I hope I'm not making things too complicated. I think it's easy to understand, right, Benny? Okay, and Sergio, right? So this is my analysis.
Very good. Sergio, I think we are almost there, reaching the 1 hour. So David, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for waking up early. Wednesday already in China, right? It was very good talking to you. I don't know if you have any comments to finish, but thank you so much in the name of XP and XP Private, and thank you, Sergio, to establish this relationship with us and setting up this meeting.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm truly looking forward to meeting many of you in person. Okay, when this epidemic is gone, I'm excited thinking about visiting Brazil. Okay, this is one of the very few countries I've not visited. Okay, and this is a large country, beautiful country, unique culture. But visiting Brazil is a big pity for me. So I definitely want to visit Brazil. This is my top priority. I look forward to meet many of you, okay, in person in the near future. Thank you very much.
You will be very welcome here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor David. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergey. Bye-bye.